Hi guys, I'm Dr. Tara Tobias. I want to welcome you all back to my channel. As promised, we're going to continue on in the series that I've been doing in the last few videos. And today what we're going to focus on is half kneeling. So this is with when you're on one knee and the other leg is up in front of you. In the first video, I talked about the benefits of the developmental sequence. In the second video, I showed one technique of how to get onto the floor and back up to a higher surface. In the third video, I showed tall kneeling and I talked about some of the benefits of that position. Definitely go back and watch that tall kneeling video. It is extremely beneficial to master or get really good at that tall kneeling position before you advance to this half kneeling position. And then that is where we're gonna start this video. So the reason it's so critical that you start with that tall kneeling position is one of the challenges or the benefits as far as relearning normal movement patterns after any type of a stroke or a brain injury is in this half kneeling position. You are dissociating now. So in tall kneeling, everything is pretty much the same on the left and the right side of your body. And in this half kneeling position, you are now separating the left side and the right side of your body. So they are doing opposite things. So I tell you that because this is a really hard position for a lot of people to get into. If you're just gonna go into half kneeling and you're not gonna go into tall kneeling, I'm gonna show you an alternative technique that you can use where you scoot down to a stool. So hopefully a lot of you are getting more comfortable with scooting down to a stool because I've shown it in a lot of videos and given a lot of different exercises that you can do in that position. But you're basically gonna put a stool in front of a chair and you're just gonna lower yourself down onto the stool. Now from this position, because your bottom is supported, it's a little bit easier to get your legs in that staggered position. That is going to be a little bit challenging the first time you do it, again, because you're dissociating the left side of your body from the right side of your body. It also requires a little bit more flexibility in the hip and thigh muscles. So you might feel a little bit of a pull, which sometimes can create a little bit of spasticity and make it even more challenging to get into this position. So if you go back 2 videos ago, and I'll put a link for that right here, I also showed, in addition to this position, I showed another way that you can get down to the floor. So go ahead and go back and watch that video to see how to learn how to get down to your knees, or one strategy that you can use to get down to your knees. But now, once you're in this position, the key thing and the most important component of this exercise is to keep your involved hip. So we're gonna say that your involved leg is in the back, keeping that hip straight and keeping weight on that leg. So that's extremely challenging because the other hip is flexed. And so a lot of times that involved leg wants to flex and you're gonna fall backwards. So really working on keeping that hip extended and just maintaining this position. Once you get good at that holding on, this is a big step. So don't take this next step too lightly, but now you're just gonna pick your hand up and see if you can maintain the position. Now again, this alone, without doing any other movement, is extremely challenging. And if you can master this and keep that hip straight, it's gonna have a huge impact on your standing and your walking. And then once you've mastered that, you can add kind of what we call a dual task. So once you get really comfortable with that position, you can try setting a chair off to the side and just reaching across with your strong arm or your uninvolved arm. Now again, this is going to be extremely challenging. So you have to be able to lift that arm up and maintain your balance. But just reaching across and maybe picking something up and moving it over to the mat without that hip popping out the back. If that hip starts to pop out the back, do not do it because you are just reinforcing bad behaviors. And trust me, your brain is building new connections with everything you do. So what you practice is what your brain is kind of building right now as far as new patterns. So As I've said in several videos, just be patient. Don't feel like you need to rush on. But for those of you who are a little bit more advanced, and I would say you had a minor stroke, you could definitely add this additional challenge and really work on that higher level hip control. If you are a little bit lower level, but you do not have severe spasticity, so I would say you have mild spasticity, meaning that you can pretty easily use your other hand to move your arm out of this flexed position, but you don't feel comfortable lifting both of your hands up. You can use a gym ball, and you can set your involved hand on the gym ball and then use your uninvolved hand to hold your weaker hand on the ball and just hold it. And then once you get really good at that, you can try rolling the ball out to the side. Now you're challenging that hip a little bit and challenging the rotation in that hip a little bit. You can roll the ball forward. That again is just an additional challenge where the hip is flexing, and then roll the ball back, and then that really forces you to have to extend that hip. So now you're learning more dynamic stability in the hip, which is extremely valuable when you get to stepping and walking and taking turn steps. And then finally, the last thing in this little mini home exercise sequence is really the value in just working on getting into half kneeling and out of half kneeling. So basically going from tall kneeling to half kneeling and back to tall kneeling. So your hip has to work extremely hard. You have to have a lot of hip strength in order to bring that uninvolved leg forward and then bring that uninvolved leg back. So it's really working, it's a really advanced way to work the hip stability on your involved leg. So you're gonna get all your weight on your involved leg, and you're basically just gonna bring your uninvolved leg forward and then bring it back down. Now, an easier way to do this, because again, this is gonna be really, really challenging for a lot of people, is to start in tall kneeling facing the mat so that you can use the mat or use the couch to support yourself. And instead of bringing the leg forward, just almost kind of rotate and lift it up out to the side and back down. Just bringing it out to the side and back down. I mean, you can see how hard it is to keep that hip straight. And then once you get really good at that, put the support surface on your involved side, especially if you have arm weakness. And again, work on bringing that uninvolved leg forward and bringing it back, bringing it forward and bringing it back. So these are just a snapshot or just a few exercises that you can do in this position. There's definitely a ton of variation in this half kneeling position that are all great exercises. If you like these exercises and you want to see more, definitely give it a thumbs up, and I can always make another video with some other ideas or suggestions for this half kneeling position. Again, have fun with this activity. Don't get frustrated. Be patient with yourself. You can do this. That is the most important thing to remember every time you do an exercise, is that you can do this. Your brain is constantly forming new connections, and the more you just work on normalizing these movement patterns and just challenging your body to get into these positions and work on these movements, the better they are going to get and the better your overall movement's going to get. And that is it. That is all I have for today. So I thank you all for watching. You all have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.